On today's podcast, I'm joined by Dan Stevenson, founder of Haboodle Estate Agents. Dan's worked across traditional estate agency, corporate models, and large-scale online businesses. And in this episode, we talk honestly about what it takes to build a modern, independent estate agency. Hope you enjoy the episode. Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good
I
to
feel
see you.
long overdue, I'd say, long overdue to say the least. So if anyone who doesn't know, you hasn't seen your stuff on socials, give us your 30-second CV. What's your sort of estate agency timeline look like?
Started off, did a year of lettings, Clapham Common, then moved to KFH, did about 3, 4 years KFH, and then went to Purple Bricks, quite early doors Purple Bricks. I was there for maybe 6 or 7 years. So through all of the different changes, and then decided to set up myself, and I've been doing that now for just shy of 3 years.
There's always a common theme on the podcast. I speak to a lot of self-employed agents who I kind of know because they're with a certain brokerage sort of thing. And when I'm researching them, lots of them have sort of this Purple Bricks background in some way, shape, or form. What is in the water at Purple Bricks, do you think, that makes people then go on to have really great estate agency businesses?
I think that when we joined Purple Bricks, they had a very good structure in place of helping people set up self-employed businesses. So when I joined, it was very much the self-employed model, and Kenny and Michael had put together like a really good structure of how people could effectively launch that business. Everything from giving advice around kind of getting an accountant. You have to obviously get up in the morning and crack on yourself. You're not going to be sitting in an office surrounded by colleagues, a manager telling you what you need to do for the day and kind of checking in on you. And it was a bit kind of like sink or swim as well. So if you could last there, I think that you would then, if you were to go off and do something yourself, the likelihood is that you would be successful at it, because they were tough times in the beginning. We were trying to um, get people on board with something that they weren't previously used to. Obviously, everyone was very comfortable with a high street estate agent and that process, and it was just something that was new. So yeah, there was a lot of long hours. I'd say the majority of people worked 6 days, if not seven, and everything down to even collecting reviews was so important, because you needed people to see like the success of what you were doing within your area. So yeah, I think it gave people a very good, strong foundation to then be able to go off and set up their own business.
What made you want to join Purple Bricks and start off with? So you mentioned you were at KFH beforehand, obviously, fairly largish company in the grand scheme of things. What made you want to sort of jump ship and sort of go to the Purple Bricks side of things? Was it the sort of running your own business side, or was it just you due a change, or what made you make that leap?
Yeah, not at all, actually. I didn't. That was not at that point in my life. Owning a business and all of the extra work that comes with that was not something that I actually even really knew a whole lot about. It was more so that came kind of like afterwards, once joining. the The main thing for me is that I've always looked at this industry. I love what I do. Like, I love being able to meet customers, bring people on a journey, and like, not just that, but I love property in general. Purple Bricks was a different way of doing things. It was a way where we could actually maybe make a change within an industry that I felt was needed, and I think that it was the start of self-employed estate agency in the UK, at least. Obviously, there had been a lot of stuff going on in Australia and the US prior to that, but I think it was definitely what got kind of self-employed estate agency off the ground in the UK.
So you went from Purple Bricks, and then obviously you launched Haboodle, which I always love the name Haboodle. So it's a nice word to say. What are the main skills that you've tried to keep with you from that sort of Purple Bricks era that you've sort of tried to drag over into the Haboodle chapter?
So one of the things that I seen with Purple Bricks was that we really brought technology in. So there was everything from a customer being able to go on, like, outside of normal office hours and book a viewing. And that today sounds like a lot of CRM systems offer that. That was a game changer back in 2015, maybe even prior to that, that people could go on and do that. I loved that side of it. I think that within a state agency, there definitely needs to be a strong human element, but I also think that technology is something that people want. Like everyone's, watching stuff on Netflix and buying stuff on Amazon. Like the way that people kind of to go about their day has changed. And I feel like a state agency hadn't really moved with that. Purple Bricks absolutely were bringing in all of that technology. They were looking at what people were doing all over the world, and then obviously giving that to our customers. I would say that's the biggest thing that I took with me. So straight away when we set up, I wanted to make sure that we had one of the best CRM systems that we had, and not just that it was a very good, strong CRM, that we were working with a company that was very forward thinking. We work with Street. I don't know if to mention that or not, but we love them. They're incredible, really really good company to work with. Any issues that we've ever had, they're always super helpful, and they're constantly bringing out new bits of tech. That was important to me, but equally, I wanted it was the way the Purple Bricks worked, and what I wanted to kind of bring in was the a customer could meet you in their living room. You have like a conversation, you talk about what they need, and that could be anything. It could be someone that's going through like maybe a difficult time in their life, or that they live in a different country and they need someone who can kind of offer them a slightly different service, maybe something that they might not be able to get from a typical 9 to 5, and that we would be able to kind of build that for them and deliver on it. And I think that's kind of one of the big things for me was that if I go in and I sit in someone's living room and I tell them that we are going to do everything we can to achieve their goals, I think that's only possible if I am there to do that with them. If I'm telling them that we're able to do this, we can do that, and then I disappear off, I feel like I've already let them down. So that was a big element of when we were at Purple Bricks. We would sit in someone's living room. We would go through the process of how it worked, what that journey might look like for them, and then we would be there on the day to hand over the keys to the new buyer. And that's something that I stick to, even if it's a case of blocking out half of my day waiting for a completion to take place. I will do that because I know that's important for people, and yeah, I think that that's one of the big kind of like fundamental differences that you get within self-employed. Like if like, and I speak to lots of other self-employed estate agents like locally here, and I think everyone's got that same kind of feeling of we. It's not like we can all say that we're different and that we've got like some like special sauce of how we're going to change people's lives, but really, it's all just about actually just caring about our customers and actually really being able to have the tools to be able to deliver for them and not have to be confined by kind of like a corporate business who tells you what you can and can't do.
So you open the doors on Haboodle, and you obviously go from having what I would imagine would be a very full calendar with purple bricks through to what I imagine was quite an empty calendar when you first started. So sort of day one, you lift the shutters and turn that sign around the door saying that we're now open sort of thing. How do you go around growing your business, getting your first instructions, getting listings? Talk me through those sort of first couple of months of launching Haboodle.
Yeah, so that was definitely a challenge, because I hadn't worked in this area prior to that. So a lot of my working kind of career as an estate agent had been Southwest London, and I moved to Purley, which was also a big factor in setting up because I bought a house here and kind of realized that I felt that there was a bit of a gap for this particular model, but I didn't know anyone, so I had to really work hard to go out there and find instructions, and that was everything from Facebook groups, door knocking, letters, like all every possible avenue that we could go down. But I would say one of the biggest was actually just reaching out to people who I knew. So it could be anyone. It could be like a friend of mine who lived in the area or lived locally, and just using the phone book. I would say I got a lot of my, I would say out of my first 10 instructions, 5 or 6 of them were people who I either knew or a friend of a friend, which I think a lot of people don't realize that how many instructions they potentially have within their phone book. And I think you maybe have said something like that before, but it's you've and I think you've just got to not be afraid as well. You've just got to reach out to people and kind of put yourself out there. Everyone wants you to be successful. I'm not the best at getting in front of the camera on Instagram, but maybe I'm saying it here. Commitment for this year is that I need to do more of that. But it's one thing that your friends and your friends' friends, when someone's setting up a business, everyone wants you to do well. You need to put yourself out there. If you haven't put yourself out there, no one knows that you exist.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Is if there's one time, sort of, I won't say one time, one of the main times in your life when you think your friends and family will come together and support you is you go forward and go, look, cards on the table here. I've just launched my own business. If you know anybody, like if you just got anyone in your phone book who might be looking to sell a place, rent a place, be a landlord, do us a favor. Can you just send me over their details? Like, I'd really appreciate it. Like, how many people would turn around and be like, yeah, yeah, like, no problem at all. Like, I'll literally just forward some people onto you, sort of thing. But I think that the mistake that I see lots of people make is they kind of think that if they make a big splash when they first launch is kind of like a long way to fall sort of thing. So they kind of feel safer by not telling anybody. And then they'll turn around in 6 months' time and go, well, I haven't got any leads in my business. And it's because you've not told anybody. So I see people fall that trap all the time. So how important do you reckon it is almost to have that sort of no plan B mindset to kind of go, right, I'm in this, let's go. And I'm going to text my friends and I'm going to go on socials and make the biggest splash that I possibly can do. And if it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't.
That's it. You've got to you literally just can't stop. So you have to have an attitude that if if I haven't got X amount of instructions this month, I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. Like you have to have an attitude that like this is it, especially with setting up a company, because you've obviously as each month goes on, your overheads grow and grow and grow. So you really need to be out there, you use that phone book, get through all of those contacts. Then when you've got those properties on, find out from those people, I've sold someone's house, make sure that they're referring you to other people, looking at buyers, someone's on the market, how's your sale going? They might not have even bought from you, or they might be on with someone else, and just looking at every possible avenue all the time, and be absolutely relentless with it.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about sort of that financial pressure piece because I remember my estate agency bosses when I was 23, and we used to have like monthly one-to-ones, and they came to me saying, "Chris, we need you to get in some sort of debt. We need you, we need you to buy a house. You need to buy a fancy car or something because you're sat here living at home with your mum and dad. Your car is worth like 800 quid if you're lucky, and you're banking like 4 to 5 grand a month." And you've got no overheads, no bills going out. Where's the motivation for you to do better? And I was like, well, I'm, quite motivated and money hungry sort of thing. I consider that motivation. But no, no, we want you to buy a house or to buy, something expensive that you can't afford. So you have to come to work. So you have to work hard, sort of thing. So yeah, I've definitely experienced that firsthand. So let's talk through sort of. I don't say mistakes you'd make, but changes you would make. If you could go back in time now and have a chat with Dan when you first launched Haboodle, what would have
Yeah.
been sort of the one message or change you'd go, come on, Dan, that's a terrible idea. Don't go in that direction, go in this direction. So what would you kind of teach your younger self there?
Um, I would say don't like you when you set up and you start going to whether it's different conferences, shout out to obviously Chris' conference, been to a few of them, great, great. But some of the ones like property marketplaces like that, or just people you obviously set up a business, you'll find that there's an awful lot of suppliers will sell you the world and tell you that they're going to be able to be an absolute game changer in your business. I would actually say when you set up initially, just keep it really simple, and just have those kind of like find out how you're going to get your leads, how many leads you need or how many valuations you need in a month to get X amount of instructions, and build it around that. And then when you have maybe a little bit of extra kind of spare change and you want to look at some other different lead gen options, look at them then. But I do think that early on, I looked at quite a few different bits, and some worked out, some didn't, but I think I wasted a bit of money on a few that, if I went back now, I probably wouldn't have. Um, but I would say that don't like don't stop. Like sometimes I think what people will do is, especially in their first bit, they might have got those 6 instructions from family members. Everything that you do, like if your letters or whatever it might be, that you need that needs to keep going. So you need that to start from day one. just because you've had a couple of successful months doesn't mean that you should stop. That has to be because the phone book, you might run out of contacts, so you need to kind of keep building those in the background, spinning multiple plates. Um, I also think that if you have like with us, one of our big things that we do is the media side of it is like, professional videos, photos, and just go like we just went all out, and that's what's I think really kind of helped us grow because from early on, whereas I think sometimes other people at the beginning they go out and I don't know, maybe take photos, videos themselves, and you're kind of it's a bit of an uphill battle. I think that you need if you're going to have a product, you need to have that on day one and be delivering that on day one. Um, I'm not sure what else what else I would say.
I think, just to kind of reinforce your point there, I think that the public judge a book by its cover every single day. And so if I or any member of the public saw a picture of a house and it had, a thumb over the screen and it was blurry and a bit wonky and whatever else, I would just go, they're a bad estate agent. I would just go,
Yeah.
they could be the most amazing, spectacular agent at negotiating and selling and listing your properties, etc. But if I see bad pictures, no floor plan, video tour missing, all this, I just think that's a crap agent. And so I think that people judge an agent every single day within a blink of an eye. You might be amazing behind 99% of the scenes, but that 1% that they see is terrible. Unfortunately, you're a bad estate agent in their eyes, and that's a very hard thing to kick off.
That's it.
So you talked about us earlier, which we're going to come on to very shortly. Talk through collaboration because historically, and I'm sure probably you felt this in the corporate world slightly, it's very much sort of a us versus them sort of conversation when it comes to collaboration. But I've seen videos with people like Nelly, for example, appearing on your social media, who doesn't
Yep.
operate too far away from yourself. And they're, a completely different brokerage there with TA UK. There's lots of agents around you who you collaborate with who are nothing to do with the Buddha whatsoever. So talk me through sort of the change in mindset or direction that you feel the industry is going on in that situation.
Yeah, that's a really big one for me. I think part of that probably came from the background of Purple Bricks as well, because whilst we were under the umbrella of Purple Bricks, there was an we did an awful lot of collaboration with each other. We would have obviously had all the different postcodes kind of butting up against each other. I think that that's just the future of a state agency. Like I think that I don't understand why we're in an industry where everyone looks at everyone else as like this like really big kind of competition if we worked together, the estate agent that I think that collaborates the most and is happy to work with everyone is the estate agent who's going to be the most successful in their area because you kind of have you've got more keys than everyone else does. And I look at that going, if I it's like going to like a restaurant. I'll probably like to go somewhere that maybe you wouldn't like to. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with either of them. And that's a customer choosing which estate agent they want to use. It's just someone that has aligned with their values, someone who maybe kind of that they feel like they've gotten along with a little better. But I I should then be able to if I have one of the guys who's kind of works locally to me has a buyer, why shouldn't they be able to, work with me on that buyer for that I'm like mixing up my words. Why wouldn't I be able to work with them to help sell my customer's property? Like that's just a win-win for everyone. So I've any of the kind of the local guys around here, guys, girls, I've always made an effort to reach out and make sure that we've got good relationships so that if that ever comes around, that they feel that we can work together. And I actually think the there's one aspect of selling properties, but the other is self-employed estate agency can be a little bit lonely, and it's actually quite nice that you might not have had the best week, and you could pick up the phone and you could speak to someone and just have like a chat and kind of, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going through the same thing myself, or maybe give you a tip, or put you in touch with someone who maybe particular business problem you have, whatever it might be. So it's really really nice to have that. We um Ravi launched a property yesterday and just posted the video. We've already had like two other self-employed estate agents reach out and say that they've got buyers and can we work together? And these are people he's never even communicated with. So it just shows that obviously the social media side, but the fact of that it's like it's already kind of got that open door. Like it's already that we can and we should be working together. Um, I really like it, and I think it's beneficial to sellers as well. And I think it's one of those things that if I was a seller selling a property and I could see that that network exists, I would definitely be leaning towards one of those agents.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because you might be sat there in your town and going, "Well, I've got a 5% market share, but these guys over here have got a 4% market share," sort of thing. And they're my competition. It's like, no, no, no. There's like 91% of the public in the
Yeah.
local area who aren't using either of you two. Maybe focus on the 91%, not the 4%, because they've got the same sort of board you've got, sort of thing. So I think it's kind of a logic versus sort of monkey brain situation going on there in the background. So you mentioned Ravi. So you have obviously Haboodle as the main business, and Ravi is a sort of partner agent, I suppose, probably the is
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
official?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you decide to expand beyond just yourself?
So when I originally was setting up, I had this idea that we would have had quite a few agents. And I then, after kind of, I guess, sitting in a lot of living rooms and realizing the kind of like where our strengths were, that it was, we've kind of built a model around, we're not, our thing is not about having like the highest number of instructions within our local postcode every single month. It's much more about having the right instructions, the people who we're really aligned with. So properties that we actually believe we can deliver a service for those clients. So I guess for me, I changed my tune a little bit. I didn't want to have 10 local agents in the area or across Southwest London. I wanted to just work with people who were able to work on that same level, to people who could really offer our customers like a service that maybe doesn't currently exist within the territory. I that changed my views on how who we could work with and who we could what other agents I could effectively be partnered with, because we didn't want to just kind of take on people just because they, were seriously big listers. It was more about actually people who kind of were very aligned with kind of like, well, my ethos. And Ravi is someone who I've actually worked with for about 10 years. So we've worked in different companies together already. So I knew exactly what he was about. And we've got a great working relationship where we kind of back each other up, help each other out with anything that we can. So again, there's no sort of competition between us. It's kind of like we're effectively working together. Like I would cover viewings or deal with his customers or anything that would be needed. That's the way that I would like to work. So I'm definitely open to having a couple more agents and growing, but I'm not looking to kind of be rapidly growing. I'm not here trying to like recruit loads of people. If I was to come across someone who was keen and wanted to work with us, I'd definitely be open to having a conversation. But that's that's kind of more how I see it. Um and yeah, of course, having people on board definitely helps with all the overheads. So that is definitely a factor that's in there as well.
And how did your mindset change? I'm going to struggle to phrase this question correctly, so hopefully you'll get the gist of it. How did your mindset change? So you mentioned there that you don't want, the most agents to be working with Haboodle. You mentioned there, you don't want to be working with every client under the sun. Need to kind of align with the business as well. What sort of changed in your mindset? Because I'd imagine back in kind of the KFH sort of days, back in the Purple Brick side of things, it was sort of, numbers, 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 and more, more, more sort of thing. What changed to the point where you've gone from sort of a more, more, more mentality to more of a actually you need to be the right fit, whether it's a partner agent or whether it's a 3-bed semi coming on the market in Purley, you need to make sure you're aligned to that. So what's kind of changed over the time to kind of change your mindset on that?
Prior to working in a state agency, I actually have a background in hospitality. So before I went into lettings, I had a degree in hospitality, worked for Hilton Hotels, and the whole kind of like ethos that they have is very much that kind of like concierge service. And I felt that once I started with Haboodle, I was able to really offer that service to people. Obviously, I've always tried to have that as something in the past with these other companies that we've worked with. But as you've just pointed out, when everything is about numbers, 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 it's difficult because you've got someone saying you need to have like I remember at points in Purple Bricks when we would have 35 instructions a month. Like I personally myself would have that. And it was, yeah, very, very challenging to be able to offer people that level of service. Whereas now I actually can, but I can only do that if we have the like if we took on over 10 instructions in a month, we would have a problem. We wouldn't be able to manage that. Our whole thing is that we want to be able to be fully on that journey with our clients. So we'll do everything from going over at the point, obviously the normal stuff on the valuation, but we've got clients who we will work with for like 12 months prior to them getting ready to sell. We might be introducing them to, it could be someone who's like helping them stage the property, or it could be someone who's doing some repairs, making sure that we've helped them get into the best possible place to achieve what they would like to. And that's not necessarily always fully on value. That there's so many other bits to that as well. It's someone might actually be trying to buy a property in another location. They might need some help with that. So we would reach out to colleagues that we would have, like people, past colleagues that we would have in different areas. Um, Also helping them just even like with the values on what they should be offering on those properties. So it might be an area that like I've never even stepped foot in, but I have access to all of the data. So I can see everything from Rightmove Plus and on the other systems that we use to be able to then give that back to our clients. And I would say, like, on average, when we're doing that with someone, we will cover our fee and more, because we've just helped them maybe save, you know, quite easy to help someone save 30 to 50,000 pounds when they're looking to buy a property in a particular area. Because a lot of people are just shooting in the dark. Or we might just be telling them that what they're planning on offering is good and that they should buy that property. So that takes a lot of extra time, doing all extra appointments, phone calls, doing research for people. But it's what we like to do. It's how we like to work. We don't necessarily want to be out there, as I said, with holding on to a huge, big portfolio of properties for sale. We want to work with a kind of a nice number of people who are like that service and appreciate it, and then they give us phenomenal reviews afterwards, and that's how we're kind of building. And it's really, I would say, in the last 6 months, we've really started to see kind of like growth on that, because it's hard again when you set up and you're doing something different, that people aren't necessarily actively out looking for that. But as we've sold properties for people, it's our past clients. So like you have to work with these guys, like they're doing something different.
And how easier sell is that to the public? So if someone hadn't heard of Haboodle before, for example, they had a leaflet or saw you on socials or drove past a loo sort of thing, because I'm sure that, in fact, well, I know you're definitely not the cheapest agent in Purley by some margin. So how much of an issue do you come up against when people say to you, Dan, you're quite expensive, and these guys are doing 0.75% or whatever they do it for these days? How easy a sell is that for you as a business these days to come up against? And do you actually find that's an issue at all?
Not really at all. I actually thought that it possibly would have been, but I think that when people see that you're going above and beyond for them, they feel safe with, because this I think that one of the biggest things with buying and selling properties is that it's one of the biggest decisions you might make. Oh, and you might only do it a handful of times in your life, knowing that you're dealing with someone who has your best interests, not that they just want another instruction on the board, someone who's actually saying, we will give you the advice on what rooms in your house you need to paint, and we will also introduce you to people who can do that for you, or we can help you with your roof repairs, or we can actually help you with your search. We might not know someone in that area. If we do, great, but if we don't, I will spend, like, it's quite normal for me in an evening that I might spend half an hour on a Zoom call with one of our clients, and I'll be going through showing them the data on different properties. I might we might go through one property and actually bin it off because it's not right for them. And while we're there, we will go and have a look on Rightmove to find some other alternatives. They go off and view them, and then we go back and research it again. So I think when people have seen that and that we've got reviews to back it up, and it's, I think, with anything that you do, provided that you go in there and you can actually show people a service, I I don't think that the fee is really that big of a thing. I actually think, if anything, that we're probably one of the most cost-effective options at selling your property, because, as I said, if we're helping you save, then most of the time we're actually covering our fees, and if we're helping you with getting your property ready to get sold, we're actually possibly helping you get an extra couple of percent more on the value of your home. We had a house recently where we took on um, three good local agents, all said £800,000, and that was the correct value for the property. Property had been rented out for like 10, 15 years. We went round, met with the seller, and said, "Yeah, that is the value in today's market." I said, "But we could get you more money, but you will need to spend some money." So we got, as I said already, we got the roof had a few leaks. We got the windows cleaned. We got the carpet shampooed. House fully cleaned top to bottom itself, professionally staged. Garden was like overgrown, hadn't been touched in 10 years. Had all of that taken out, cleaned up. Um, she walked away with £68,000 above what she'd been told by us and the local agents for what was likely to be achieved previously. She spent 12 grand to do that. So I look at that and say that if you, it has to be someone in that scenario, someone who obviously wants to spend that and is able and has the means to do it. But whichever way you want to work with us, we're going to help you get a better result. We're going to give you value for money. Money, yeah.
That's a great story. I think you're definitely going to be on Elaine from Lemon and Lime's Christmas card list from putting that soundbite into the podcast about the preparation side of the property. So, Dan, you've been really generous with your time today. So, I've got one last question, if that's all okay. So, there's one piece of advice you can give it to an agent who's either starting their journey or established at the moment. What bit of advice would you give them?
If you're looking to jump into self-employed estate agency, I think the number one thing that you need to do is you need to be prepared. You need to make sure that you've got some money banked, you've saved, you've got an area that you want to be in, you've done the research, and then when you go out there, just be relentless. Don't, like, you got to back yourself to the hills. You've got to make sure that you're prepared, and you've got to be prepared to do that. You've got to be prepared to work for at least your first year. I would say 6 days a week. And it's really, really important that if you've got people at home, that they also believe and back you, because you need that. Like, you're going to have days where you'll be doubting yourself. You know, you'll have a sale that's fallen through that you needed that money by the end of the month, and you need people who kind of go, come on, you've got this. And that's why I also think it's important to have those collaborations with people and reach out, because not only your friends and family, but everyone else who sees what you're trying to do wants you to achieve your goals. So make sure that you make those connections early. And yeah, I think that's it. There's some phenomenal Facebook groups out there. People are always willing to kind of help and will do anything they can to give anyone advice. And yeah, I think it's just go for it.
Oh, amazing. I love the back yourself bit. So someone once says to me, no one's gonna be a bigger cheerleader than you and your own mum. So therefore, your mum's not gonna do your cheerleading for you. So you've got to go out there and really kind of, pitch your own corner and say, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Stand fast, sort of wave the flag sort of thing. Absolutely go for it. So absolutely love that. Dan, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, mate. You've been an amazing guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Take care. Have a good day. Bye bye.